as many of you will find out, you're going to make a very decent amount of money. And what you might want to do is save some of the money and don't overspend it, right? Make a smart decisions. So, because once you're going to find out when you're a student, you might not have a lot of money. So, and when you get this job, you're going to see a nice check, right? And then you're going to go and buy a nice car, nice clothes, and then you're just going to have a nice paycheck, but you're going to find out that you're not going to be saving a lot of money. And what you want to do at that time when you're young, you want to actually plan. So this is part of the planning. So I'm trying to teach you here the 101 on how do you buy a house, but at the same time, I'm trying to help you and just, go further than that. Start thinking and planning of how you're going to live your life because you need a place to live. So you might as well start thinking and change your mindset a little bit of investing, right? And you're going to say, well, I'm just very young. I can't do it. And I can tell you that you can't because once you graduate, you're going to make very good money comparing to a lot of people, which you are going to be very lucky. So you got to use that money wisely. And I can also let you know that you have to think a little bit different, right? Here, you have to take some risks and be able to think more of an entrepreneur. But, those decisions you got to do and you got to talk to people who have done similar things. Because I know we have family, which, we love and we care. But sometimes our family doesn't have the understanding and what they hear and know about is things that you can't buy a house. It's very expensive. It's not a good thing. It kind of, things that it might prevent you from going forward and actually look into it, at least find out, do some research on your own and make those decisions, right? You always have to do that. I mean, like I said, better not let it go so you know what I mean. But do that, find out and don't be afraid. Here it's taking some risk. Like I said, now I was able to retire, financially independent because of some of the decisions I made and my husband. So I do this now because I want to help people and it's something I love doing. But it's not really my only source of income. Um, like I said, I have some rental incomes that thank God that's what we did. But you have to sometimes live below your means, right? That's what I mean. Don't go buy something that is very expensive and try to show up, so think of that. Okay?
Okay.
So if you want to go now in the third slide, Lazaro,
Okay. Yep.
in regarding, buying a house. So when you start thinking about that, I know you are very young and you might say, I don't qualify, but we're going to discuss some of that and some of the options or things you can think about. One of the things that is important, what drives the market, it's always to know about what type of market you're in. So if you're a buyer's market, or seller's market, it's just normal. So when you're in a buyer's market, in a buyer's market, there's going to be a lot more houses, right? So what happens is when you have a lot more houses, there's a lot more competitions when there's buyers. So what happens is supply and demand. Those prices are going to go higher, and are going to end up looking for houses and submitting offers. Once when you like a house, the process is you have to submit an offer, and you have to provide a price. So because you have a lot of competition, you ended up paying usually a lot more than what sometimes the house is worth. Sometimes you got to pay out of your own pocket so that the um, the seller can give you the house to you. So it gets very competitive. I've seen where people submit 10 offers at least on one house, and you're talking about within 2 days that you put it into the system called the MLS, right? So that's I mean, it's kind of good and bad, but many people think that because there's a lot of houses, you're going to be able to buy a house at a low price, and it's really the opposite, and it's really hard actually to get at a good price. And also, the houses stay there longer, right, as well, because there's a lot more supply. Normal, that is something that we hope that it is, but it's hardly either a normal. It's either a buyer's market or seller's market. So on a seller's market, this is where we are. So there's could be more buyers, but there's a lot less homes that are available for the public. What happens here is, in recently, many sellers are waiting, or not selling their homes because they're hoping that they can put it at a higher price, right? Um, and the other thing is what's happening, our interest rates are higher. So that limits the amount of people that can actually right now buy the homes. So I mean that is what happens too. But right now there isn't that many houses available. So what happens again? There's could be more people that want to buy homes and less houses available in the market. And what happens again right now? Because we do have a good economy, the prices are not going down; they're actually going up, and they continue to go up. So this is very important to understand. Okay. Um, and then next slide. In regarding to, why do you want to find a realtor, someone that helps you? Well, I don't know if you heard, but some people say, if I have a house, I'm going to sell it on my own, because they want to save sometimes a commission, which, as a realtor, that's how we get paid. But the situation is that if you don't have a realtor, sometimes you can get into a situation, a problem, because there are steps you need to follow. And if you don't have that representation, you miss those. So also because once you buy a house and you have a realtor, you understand the market, you do have to sign an exclusive buyer agreement, right? That you're going to be working, and it's a relationship, right? That we're going to tell you what we're going to do for you, and also what you should expect from us, that we represent you, and so it's a relationship that we built. At the same time, when you work with a realtor, you know that some of the homes that are going to be available right away, because we work with different realtors already. And for instance, in our company, we provide the information, but we do a lot of the trainings in our caravans in on the south here, which that means that all the houses, all the new information that is coming out, different companies, Center 21, I mean, Coldwell Banker, they all come to these meetings and they propose and they mention everything that is happening on everything that is new. So we have that relationship with other realtors, not just from our company, which again, that gives you a better chance to get in a property that is in good condition, and we're able to negotiate price for you guys. Also, when you have new constructions, we represent you when we go into the new construction. Just to let you know, there's actually a good opportunities in Escondido, um, and there are some townhomes. They're offering some programs. There's sometimes programs for the government. I'll let you know that a little bit more, but that they can give you so that your actually mortgage will be lower. You can, if you qualify, you can qualify up to 100 to $150,000 that the government gives you. Again, so this is in Escondido. So I mean, there's things like that you have we need to know. And in addition, there's a process, like I mentioned. There's a title company that we work with, and that's actually very important. When you buy a house, you got to make sure that there's no liens. Meaning, sometimes people do work on a house and you didn't pay them, so they put a lien, so kind of like a hold, and you're not able to really sell the house, right? It has all those liens. You have to pay. There's like taxes. And if you don't do a search, you don't have a title company, you could buy a house that has taxes that were on, that someone is, asking uh, for a repayment because they didn't pay them. So you want to make sure that title is clear and clean. Okay. So that's kind of why it's important to really work with a realtor. And not only that, we build a relationship, right? So if you need someone that needs to fix your roof, we can recommend someone that we worked with before, someone that does, great job. and it's someone that has a good reputation. So we ended up understanding a lot of the needs where, you know, if I need plumber, we can help with that. So those are the things also. It's important because when you have a house, you will find out that you're going to need a lot of this need, which in a way is good and bad. But I mean, it gives value to your house. So it's not really a negative thing. You got to think of that as your asset and it's a value. So it does create a lot of value. Having a property creates value. So, okay. And the next slide, please, Lazaro. Okay, so here is the process that we follow, and this is what I'm saying. There is a process for everything, and there are different services and organizations we work with. So, for example, step 1, 2, 3, I'm not going to go in detail in every single thing because I do want you to ask me some questions maybe towards the end and give you more information. And if we need to, and if we have time, we can go back to this one. But basically, what we do here, kind of the first steps would be that, hey, I'm thinking of buying a house, right? But many people tell me, hey, I'm thinking, but I don't qualify, or I'm gonna wait, right? And then to just wait years and nothing happens. And the thing here that my recommendation is this. Um, since you are, you know, students or going to be a recent grads, it's very important to go and do to meet with us in my lender, right? And what we're going to be doing is we do a scenario of where you are, right? What can you qualify? And if you don't qualify at this time, we can help you with the roadmap, right? Maybe you don't qualify now, but in 2 years you can. But in order to do that, you have to do A, B, and C, right? But you have a plan, and this is about planning because the average age for homeownership in the U.S. is 34 years old. So you don't want to wait until you're 34 years old to own property because it has a lot of advantages. So these are the things that you can start doing early enough and be able to have financial freedom sooner than later, right? And I know that most of you will be able to do this sooner or later because you already are going to be having a really good income. So it's just a matter of planning and saving and trying to figure out what you're going to do with this money. And there's steps. There's some patience you also need to have, but that's really what it's going to take. Okay, so basically in this consultation, we're going to let you know why you qualified, what credit score do you have, right? So those are all the steps that we're going to be giving you in here. Okay, so and then the next slide, I'm just going to let you know a little bit more here uh, in the finance process, which is, it is very important because many people say, well, I don't qualify and sometimes we don't know how. But like I said, this is why it's important to know and find out, even though you think you don't qualify or there's no way you will ever qualify. Let's do a meeting like that, right? This is gonna help you a lot instead of hurt you, and it's pretty easy. So this is what's going to happen, right? So when you're ready to buy a house or even thinking about it, or how do you even plan to it, it's important to know because you're going to find out, like I said, there's a roadmap and you're going to find out what it is. And at the same time, once we do this consultation like this, and once you were ready to buy a property, the lenders that I work with, they do a very thorough job. So basically, if they tell you you qualify for a certain amount, it is that amount, right? What I've seen in some cases is people submit an offer, their lender said everything went great, and when they're getting ready to write and give the loan, there's a process, there's an underwriter process, someone that really looks at everything, right, in the process in the lenders. And many times um, they find something because the first lender didn't do a thorough job and you don't get the loan,
Hey, Don.
And sometimes you do risk of not getting your deposit back because they didn't do a good job, and you
Huh?
don't want that to happen. So that's why it's very
Yeah,
important that you
those
do.
are who are having the offload issue.
I'm sorry?
Okay, who is that? Hold on, let me mute him. Okay, yeah, keep going. Sorry,
Yeah, thank you.
somebody
Okay, so
was.
that's why it's very important to have this meeting and to do this ahead and make sure you have someone that is reputable, not that someone's going to say yes, you qualify, but they didn't do a good job, and you find out towards the end when you're really serious and buy the house that they don't approve your loan.
So let me
So
ask a question here, Maria. So
mhm,
everybody who's on the call is obviously very interested in either acquiring a house, learning the process, and or figuring out how to get a second property. Right. The first
mhm,
one we're going to focus on first home buyers and
yeah,
mainly students, right, and or entry level
yeah,
individuals. So individuals that are probably thinking, "Oh, I'll buy a house and I'll do it once I have a great job." As a student, you probably have student debt, finances, low wages, if any wages at all. So, how can a student actually qualify? Is that even possible? Should they even consider this right before they get out of school, or should they wait until they have a quote unquote stable job? Because when you actually go to the pre-qualification process, they ask you for a 2 year job
yeah. Do
or
you want to go down to the
reference.
next slide? Yes.
Okay, fair
Mm-hmm.
enough. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Go. Continue with your question.
Yes,
Yes.
so the question is, should students and or entry level engineers within maybe 6 months or a year of work experience, should they actually go ahead and, if they really want to buy a house, pursue this process, or should they wait?
Yes, actually, see, the good things for students is that they do ask for the 2 years, right? Income taxes or W-2s, but then you say, oh, I haven't worked, or it's only a year. Correct. But when you're a student, we can take 2 years of your studies as you're working. Or also, if you have an offer letter, right, that says you're going to make certain amount of money, they can use that income already. You don't have to have worked already a year, so that income, or 2 years, so that they can count the income. So that's why, but yes, so students do can qualify. And also there's programs that, like, you once we meet with the lender, then they could also recommend. But also if you have student debt, so when you also have a student, right, there's an amount you're going to pay, right, every month. But at the same time, there's programs when you have a student debt that once we have a certain property, you can you can pay your debt within when you get that loan. So that means that it's part of your house, let's say, right? So now you're able to qualify for a higher balance, or able to qualify because now your student loan is kind of disappears there, right? So there are programs like that for students who are going to be either graduating soon, or that they have an offer letter. Yeah, there are opportunities like that. So in regards to the, I'll explain, maybe it's the second one. So but these are some of the documents that you are going to be asked to provide, right? The federal income taxes, W-2s, but if you don't have those, you need to provide transcripts, right? Instead, they're going to ask you for the transcripts. They're going to ask you either for an offer letter, so that we can work that, or if you do have any type of work that you did, it's a good thing as well. So those are the things that they can do, and provide if in lieu if you haven't really worked 2 years. So the school does count. Okay.
Okay.
Um.
We do have a
And
question from the lenders. And Lourdes, I don't know if you want to come off mute or I can read it. If you can turn your mic on and ask the question, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can ask a question. Thank you.
Yes.
So I've been hearing a lot about the lenders saying like there's a difference between big banks like Chase versus like local lenders to the to like the area. Like I live in San Luis Obispo, so that was my question. Like, do you have a preference or recommendation, or what's your opinion on that?
yeah, I'm gonna be here honest because I've done over, I'd say, at least 12. transactions personally for myself on buying homes. So, and refinances few more, right? So I used to work with lenders, lenders. I used to work with Chase or Bank of America. In some of these situations where I had, ones was where they didn't do a good job, and at the end they asked me for something, and they didn't go through my loan, right? So, and this is almost towards the end. So now what I've done, I work with the lender from our company, and I've been using her for probably 10 years, and I only do the transactions with her, right? And this is a lender. And lenders are actually better sometimes than the banks. I think they're much better because banks have a more strict guidelines, and they don't, there's kind of black and white and that's it. And you don't really always have a point of contact. So when I did my transactions, someone took the application, right? You did it online. And then after that, you were talking to someone. And then after that, you talked to someone else. So you never really had a point of contact. And might one person might do a good job on their review, but the next person doesn't, right? And towards the end, the underwriter, the one that says yes or no, is the one that is going to see everything that got compiled. And if they didn't do a good job, they're not going to approve your loan. And you can't even talk to them. Then you just get a letter and say it's cancel. And so what I prefer, what I recommend is a lender, someone that you work with and build that relationships. Like I said, I have my own lender, and personally, I've used her for 10 years, and she has helped, my family, and not only that, some family who their loan was not approved, and they were going to keep their closing costs because they did a good job. Then she called me, and she said, I have this situation. She was able to get it approved with her lender, and and get the house. So my recommendation is a lender. That's what I'd say. Banks, sometimes I don't use banks anymore.
Does that answer your question, Lourdes?
I think so. She said, yay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay. So yes. So here, okay. So like I said, some of the documents that are going to be required. Regarding the financing, I am not an expert lender, so let me just tell you that. That's why I work in a team. But once we get together, they're going to be able to look at the different programs. But these are the basic programs that many will get. But that's what they are. The FHA loans are usually used for first-time buyers, right? And the reason they use for first-time buyers is because you have a very uh, low down payment of 3.5% of the value of the house. So you're talking about, I don't know, $20,000 to $30,000. Instead of you provide 10 to 20%, you're talking about 107. In today's market, houses are the medium house right now in San Diego are 900,000, 899, and nicer areas, it could go up to $80. So you're talking about providing, almost 170,000 to 200 something thousand dollars if you were to give 20% down on some of the other programs. So FHA loans are very popular for first-time home buyers, and they do have a lower credit score, right? And so it is very important for students or recent grads to make sure they really know what their credit score is, and to understand how that is built if you don't have one. Okay. um and at the same time, if you do have issues with your credit score, again, this is why we meet with our lender. They're able to give you advice on, hey, if your credit score is this low, you should do this because it solves different situations. Instead of going into paying a company, there's companies that fix your credit, but sometimes they just charge you a lot for something that is simple that you can do. Okay. So again, that is why you don't always have to spend your money, and you need to get together to see where you stand. Everyone is different, right? This is one thing we gotta understand. Everyone's situation is very different, and that's why I can't really tell you exactly what might be best for you or exactly your situation. I'm talking a little bit in general, because until we see, then they're able to recommend. Again, I'm not the expert, but that this is why it's very important. And many people wait and keep on waiting, and they don't plan, and time passes, right? And then you say, oh, I should have bought a house. Yes, and now you're paying twice, but that's what happens. So
So
that's what I'm trying to
just
tell you.
to give you
So
a little perspective here, I did a little calculation, and if you're looking for a $1 million house and you're a student and you're thinking, well, or an individual that can actually qualify for a first time FHA loan, you could definitely look at $35,000 for a 3.5% down payment, which with a minimum of 580 credit score, and that is doable to some extent, right? Obviously, as a student or early entry career individual, you can definitely start saving up for those $35,000, but take into account, all right, my spending account. You got to create your budget. You got to make sure that you follow through. There's some sacrifices, as Maria alluded to at the very beginning, making sure that you have some sort of wealth building experience is something that you're looking for here. It is very difficult to say, you know what, I don't have the time now, I don't have the money, I don't have the bandwidth, I want to get that brand new car. But think about the amount of rent that you're going to be paying for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. Every townhouse or every one single bedroom apartment or everything around, let's focus in California, San Diego, it's about between $2,500 to about $3,500 for a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment. Plus, you have expenses, electricity, water, and utilities, whatever that is, right? So if you think, will it be okay for me to purchase a house if that's one of my ultimate goals? Do a balance and do an Excel sheet and do pros and cons, and maybe reach out to Maria, who is our speaker today, and ask her for just a good faith estimate. What can I do? How much can I really afford? She'll guide you through the process. You'll get an idea. There's no commitment here to go ahead and jump all in, but at least you'll have a better perspective. Now, we focus on the FHA loans because most of us will qualify for that here versus the BA loan. Some individuals will qualify, but that's not what we're going to be talking about and focusing. The conventional loans are more for individuals that probably have had a house before within the last 7 years, either lost it or are still, going through that process of getting a second investment property. There's programs like the Freddie Mac that can do 3% down minimal payment with a PMI and or 20% down with a 620 credit score. But that's for somebody that's probably looking into possibly investing in a second property or something along those lines. So for you, consider the FHA loans. That's something that you really want to look into. And as a student and as an early career individual, that would be a really good step for you. And if you're thinking, I don't really want to buy a house because of the burden, well, whether you do it now or do it later, it's going to have repercussions. So Maria, do you want to talk about some of those benefits of buying now versus waiting 10, 20 years to buy your first home?
okay, yeah. So just to give you some ideas. Okay, so that's correct. Rents are about $3,000, almost $4,000, depending where you go. So one thing you can also think about is, okay, well, my parents are paying rent, right? So if you wanted to buy something to help, I mean, if you think about it, with your money, what they're paying, then you could eventually probably buy a house, right? And not only that here, what you're going to gain here, you're going to save in taxes, right? Because once you own a house, your taxes are lower. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is when you appreciation, right? This is what houses or an asset gets built. So you're going to build equity, right? Many people here in San Diego probably have about at least 300,000, 400,000 of equity, right? Because when they bought their houses, were much lower. So this is what happens. Now, again, if you're young and you got to think again out of the box. Well, if I have a friend and I have another friend that we make some money and we're going to go and rent an apartment, right? You're going to pay a lot of money. But then if you think about it, why don't we get together and buy a house or property together, right? And within 2 years, you can sell that property and you can either sell the property or you can, sell the property and keep gains, or what I used to do is buy the house together, you know, make an LLC, right? You make a little of that and you rent the property. And then you just pay out of pocket the difference that you don't make for the rent. But you're gonna be property owners. So now your taxes are gonna be lower because they're gonna tax you. You have an asset again. So and at the same time you're building equity. So I mean, this is you got to think a little different than many people. You're not gonna buy your house that it's gonna be the most expensive house, right? You can start with buying a condominium, which is somewhat lower. We got to do pros and cons, right? You got to do an assessment of should I buy a house, should I buy a condominium? Um, but basically, that's really what matters. Now, the other thing you can think about is in San Diego, you can buy a house. If there's a large lot, you can invest $100,000. You can build an ADU. You can rent those ADUs now for almost $2,000 minimum, right? So there's a lot of things you can do, but you have to be able to take that step, right? You got to be able to take the step, and you got to be able to think a little bit more like, hey, I gotta just not do it on my own, but I gotta involve other people. If you can't do it on your own, um, if you think it's too much, then you can start doing things like, what was the question? And then we can send them out. And regarding just, the interest rates. So we know they're going up, and, in the 80s, they were 18%. So many people are afraid of buying properties now because of the interest rate. But they were at a 3%, 2%, which is great. But according to forecasts, they're going to go around between the lowest, maybe 6% and the 7. And that's probably what we're going to be seeing, and that's the norm. So again, it's don't wait until they're going to go back to 3% because they might never come back to 3%, right? But owning a house is actually, I mean, I think it's great. Now, it is a long term, you know, kind of investment. Now, if you want to buy and then sell it, that's also an opportunity. For me, what has worked is it's a long term, right? We bought properties and we were able to keep them, and now we were able to rent it. And again, rent has increased in San Diego and all over the nation. It's increased at least 35%, 30%. So you gotta you're gonna need a place to live. So you are gonna have no control really of the rent. But when you have a house, you have control of your mortgage payment. Once you have a loan, you can get it for 30 years fixed, which is most people get it. You can give more payments if you want to keep, to decrease those years of 30 years, which that's what I did. Or you can get a 15-year loan fixed. Your mortgage payment is going to be higher, but your interest that you're going to pay is going to be much lower. So in the long run, you're going to save a lot more money. So again, there's the things to do. And as you can see here, this is just a chart that gives you an idea. Like if you're going to buy a house for $1 million, and if you're looking at a 7% interest rate, you're talking about, $6,600,000. You got to think also, again, calculations, put in a spreadsheet, do an Excel, help, call me if you need help, and then we can put this together. But in here, you got to add property taxes, which is in San Diego, about 1.1%, right? So you got to add that. It's a year. And they break that in every 12 months. So again, you're thinking about $700 a month or so. And then you're going to have homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance, again, um, because of what we're seeing, they are going up in value. Some of my insurance, I'm paying $2,400, $2,400 a year. I used to pay 1,000. So again, you got to divide that. And so you have your insurance, your taxes, your principal and interest. Those are kind of the main ones. Mhm. Sorry?
Oh, somebody had their mic on. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yes. And so, of course, utilities, but this is what, eventually, once you do a house, you do an assessment, this is what we're going to put down and how much you're going to be paying for it. So, um, and in here, again, it's the process that we're going to help you through and guide you at every single steps. There's a lot of different there's a negotiation, the writing the offer, going back and forth, what they're going to be accepting once you submit an offer. Then there's a contract. We have to order an appraisal. The bank requires that usually to see if it justifies the file the loan amount. So got to do that. At the same time, we are going to have inspections of the property, right? Making sure that there's not a problem with the foundation or there's a major problem that the seller's not telling us. So there's inspections that are going to be done, making sure that you're not going to buy something that has a lot of problems, right? So we do that. There's also the insurance and the title that we have to look for, the insurance, the homeowner's insurance. We have to find out which one that's going to be. Maybe, again, we're going to work with you on seeing which that was going to be. A title company, that's what I said, they're going to do the deed, finding out everything's fine. There's also the home protections plans that is kind of warranty for all your appliances that once you get it, if something breaks it, we can get fixed. Again, it's just kind of like a warranty. Um, and then all through these different processes, we work with the lenders, right? The closing confirmations, we're going to discuss all the itemization of all the fees that are going to be, charging and the loan amount, everything is going to be disclosed, before you were to sign everything and get it finalized. So every of this, there's steps in the way that we're going to be guiding you and meeting with you. And of course, the final would be once they're going to be asking you for your down payment, that amount that needs to be transferred to the correct place. Um, right now with fraud, I mean, everything is very secure because people have lost you know, their their down payment, right? So this is now actually very critical. There's a lot of security involved in making sure that, of course, that doesn't happen. And then finalize, you get all the loans, you sign them, and then you have your own house. You don't have a payment like almost after a month later. So you pretty much, you don't have a payment. You live there for a month and you don't have a payment until like almost the next month. So that's kind of the process. But you can close, meaning you can do this start to finish. Once you said I sign my contract and everything starts, you can do this in minimum like 18 days up to like 35, 40 days. Once you start and say, oh, I bought a house, I get my small deposit, it could take, like I said, 16 to uh, 35, 40 days, you can have the keys to your home. So this is a little bit of the process.
We
So,
have a question on the
any question?
chat, Maria. It says, general question about insurance policies. With the current fires in California, some insurance companies have canceled the policies and or left California overall. What things can homeowners do in those situations, or what can be done to prepare before something like that happens? Do you have any insight, or is this not something that you're too experienced in?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna let you personally. I had with insurance it not didn't cancel. It's just they're not going to renew, right? So some of the things you have to do is just contact different companies, um, different insurance companies, and eventually you'll find someone. But the thing here, you got to keep in mind that let's say you were paying $1,000, like in my case, the next insurance they're gonna charge you double. So that is really what's happening. So you have to be able to provide and pay that amount. And that's going to keep on happening because of all the fires. A lot of the companies are going to be increasing the homeowners insurance. But that's my recommendation. All different companies, but be ready to pay.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other
So
questions?
yeah. So do your research, and I think with that, we definitely are done with the formal presentation. Thank you, Maria. Great
Thank
insight,
you.
great perspective. So we have a forum for questions.
Can you go down to the next one? Just so yeah. So if you can contact me, one thing, so you can contact me. I have a QR code there, and also if you want to provide any good reviews or any comments, please do so here. Here comments, and I'm also on LinkedIn, so Maria Rios. So you can also contact me there. Any other questions you might have.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Lázaro.
of
This was
course.
great.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. My thing would be don't be afraid. Like I said, I was like 21 when I first bought my first lot, and I kept on going. And you just have to be, how do you put it? Think out of the box. Do different things. One time I had a family member who was my co-signer. I had many problems that the banks wouldn't give me any more loans. So I had to think outside the box. And I was able to, get a house, a very good price, and I still have it. So don't always take a no for an answer.
So with
Thank you.
that, we have a comment from Norma. She says, "Thank you, Maria, for taking the time to share this invaluable information with us. First generation Mexican American and recent UCSD graduate. I've been seeking resources like this, and she's grateful for the workshop. So thank you, Norma. If you have any
No, thank
specific
you.
questions, you're more than welcome to open your mic and ask questions. If you've considered possibly purchasing a house and or don't really know where to start, you can definitely start asking us questions. Not only Maria, but Mr. Mike Cruz, Paul Montoya, myself, Mina Martinez, who's here as well. We can provide some insight from our personal experience as to what we did, how we did it, and then obviously Maria, as the realtor, she could definitely give you some additional guidance in that. So with that, turning it over to the audience. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, Maria, I had an early question about markets, and I guess they're not all the same in San Diego County. And I noticed a lot of young people, a lot of ship engineers, they're buying in North County now. They're not really in San Diego or South Bay. What's your comment on
They're
that?
going the north. A lot
Yeah,
of people are moving to LA as well, right? Because of the jobs. You're talking about Poway, more,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
it seems like the houses are more affordable up there.
Mm. Interesting. Because usually, well, usually the prices where it's like Claremont would be, lower in this area, and the South Bay is somewhat lower. Going a little bit higher in Poway, they're higher. But the
Oh,
the thing what I hear is that companies, right? A lot of people don't want to commute, and so they prefer to stay there. So a lot of people, right, because there are organizations and the jobs are more towards the north. So that's kind of what they're seeing. The commute sometimes they don't want to take.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. hmm
Yeah.
But yes.
So for anybody who's really, thinking about building generational wealth, this is a good opportunity, to get into real estate. Obviously, with
Yes.
the rents skyrocketing, going boom, for all of the U.S., in particular to Southern California, for the most part, from what we've experienced, this is a way for you to mitigate some of that problem. As a matter of fact, I can definitely attest buying a house can definitely keep that cost down to some extent. Obviously,
Okay.
there's some cost incurred, upkeep and whatnot, but it goes with everything, right? One for the other. So, Mina Martinez, any thoughts from your perspective, ma'am?
Oh, well, thank you and good day to
Good
all.
day.
But yeah, yes, very, very engaging and informative. And I can see from my experience, we've had a couple of homes. It'll be 44 years this May 9th that I took the oath of marriage. And one of the things that I've experienced were three homes. And each one obviously trying to do for the better, like you do with a car. You grow out of what you need currently, and then you have to go to another standard depending on what your needs are, correct? We could have a
hmm
two-door car, and then next thing you know, we're going to need a van. Oh, we need, we have a whole volleyball team now that we're going to have to transfer here and there. With homes, you kind of have that life experience as well. If you're going to buy something that's going to be suitable for you now, that's available, but then you start thinking, oh, I need to add something eventually. We're going to have family. What do we do with this space? You're buying property. The walls and everything around you knowing whether you're in a condominium, a townhome, or your own casita, which nothing's attached to. There's a difference in those three things. And so anyone who wants to go ahead and buy a condominium or a townhome, has been my experience that we cannot put too many things on the walls, that we're limited to what we can do outside of our house space, like in the yards. So there's some things that you have to find out after a while, right? And it took us, out of the three homes that we bought, we moved from one to the other, okay, to be able to afford something a little bigger, of course, to our needs. We've had three unfortunate earthquakes, of which we were in the middle of the real estate buying. We were already, like in negotiations, and it was all cosmetic, but it left the crack on the concrete. We either live with it or we had it redone. No, we're not going to redo it because we're just buying a home right now. So we have challenges along the way. My question to you is, for these students, do they know the difference of buying property where they could just buy un terreno, a little
Land.
space and build on and do it their way? But now the space is so limited because all of those ADUs, all those people that own that, they're buying it. Any shape or form that it comes in, and they're buying it. So it's a very difficult decision. And every payment is going to drain something else that you need to pay for.
Right.
So home ownership has been, like anything else, you want to have a community relationship and build on and so forth. Then what I see a lot of, regardless of the situations with the personal, life or whatever it is that's going on, foreclosures. Can you let somebody know what a foreclosure means? Because that also is very difficult if you
Yes.
experience that.
Yep.
So let me explain. So yes, there's an empty lot where you can buy, right? Again, you'll be making payments. It's cheaper probably to get into it, right, than buying a property, but there's really not much. And maybe the increase in value, but maybe not as much. Then you can buy condominiums or townhomes, right? Those are kind of like apartments in a way. And then what happens is you have an associations, you pay about associations dues about probably $300 to $500, which is in addition to your mortgage. And then on top of that, you are not really allowed to do much on the exterior of the building, right? They have strict regulations, and they might not always have parkings, available for you. You might have an attached garage, you might not, right? Again, it depends on the area. And they do have some amenities, right? Like some of them have pools and things, but they're kind of very strict, and they have a lot of more rules, like what can you build, what can you put, and you always get notices, right? So that is a lot more control there too. But at the same time, they're lower than buying a house, right? So that many times is what people start with. That's how I started too. I buy a condominium. I bought a lot. That was in Mexico, and we bought a condominium because that's what we could afford. And yes, and then once we were there for 2 years, we sold. Right, we got some gains. We sold. Then we moved into a property, a house. A house, again, depending where you buy a house, right? Same thing. So there's some houses where tract homes, and some of those, again, they do have associations and they have rules. One is either to maintain the community, so everyone abides to the rules. They're not as much as in the condominiums, but in your backyard, you can do a lot of things, right? They're not very strict really much there. But on the front, they are. You have to, if you want to paint, you have to tell them what color. If you're going to have solar panels, you have to get all that approved by your neighbors and by them, the type of trees. I mean, it's association. I mean, it is what it is, but it's negative and positive. It maintains the community, right? Maintains value, but at the same time, you still have to abide. So that's really what that is. They have also association dues. Some of them I paid $50, and some other ones I paid $150, right? That all depends on the association and where it is. So regarding foreclosures, foreclosure is a property that unfortunately someone wasn't able to make payments, right? And there was no negotiations within the bank and the owner And so it goes into foreclosure. So meaning the owner now is really the bank. And so that's really, you don't want to get there if you have to, because it impacts your credit score a lot, right? It doesn't really get removed there. And pretty much you lose your house, right? And then and there's actually things that you might have to pay later on, right? Because you lost the property, you might have to pay taxes and things like that. Um, then there's the short sales, right? Short sales is when, again, you own a property, you can't really make payments for whatever reason. Then you work with the bank, and in this case, the bank does. You can. It's like your house, and you can sell it, but you're still working with the bank, right? Because the bank has to be able to approve what amount you can sell it, and if there's going to be some repayments. But that doesn't affect as much your credit as a foreclosure, right? But again, you don't want to do any of those, right? So instead, if you're able, sell it. But I know that some certain markets, the values of the homes were really low, and you own a lot more. So many people decided to do a short sale or foreclosure, right? Because they didn't want to pay. So those are the situations. But right now, there isn't a lot of foreclosures, and there isn't a lot of short sales. Not that we're seeing. It's very little.
Thank you, Maria.
And the reason is because once we had, back in 2005, 2006, when we had the issues back then, now banks have a lot more regulations. They don't always give loans like what they were giving loans before, right?
Right.
Before, they were not checking the documents. Anyone said, I make this income, people would write letters, they just gave you a loan. They didn't care. So now there's regulations. So we're not seeing that impact has in a lot of foreclosures or short sales because of the situation. So I don't think that we're going to start seeing a lot of that now.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Great insight.
Real quick, Maria, what about buying a short sale or foreclosed property? I know my nephew did that. He had a good deal.
Yeah, you can, and there, because there isn't that much, right? And what happens is, again, the people that buy those are people that know right away, and people that sometimes know right away are investors or realtors or yeah. So the people, the general public, sometimes don't always get access to those in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to be in the know-how and part of that group in order to do that. I'm gonna pivot and ask a student a question. Let's see, Diego, are you on? Yes, you are on the line. Diego Martinez, thank you for joining us. Any thoughts or any doubts or any concerns about you as a young student who potentially wants to buy a house that we could help you with? I don't know if you can turn on your mic. Yeah.
Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys can hear me,
Yes.
but I guess, I mean, at the moment, not really. I'm kind of just focused on graduating, but I guess one question about the overall general house buying process is what.
You went on mute.
You muted. Diego, you're mute.
Okay, he must have lost connection over there. Okay, good. Let me see.
One thing I would say, Lázaro, is, and I know we're mentioning about savings, right?
Yep.
So one thing that people might do is, if they're going to start saving, don't just put it in your savings account, right? Of course, you're not going to do that, right?
Okay.
Put it into a high yield savings account, right? At least you're going to get some money back.
Yeah.
Don't put it just in the regular bank account. There's
It's
Sophie, there's a few that I can recommend where you can put it high use account. Or the other thing is, what I did is I put it into my 401k, right? I put money into my 401k. And then what I did is when I had enough, I was able to get a loan, right? I pulled about, I think it was $50,000. And I used that as a down payment for a property. So, and then once because it's a loan, right? It's your own loan, right? So in a way, it's a good thing. You're putting money into 401k, And if they do matching or maximizing, that's great. And then you're still getting gains, right? So it's growing, probably higher than when you put it in a high yields account. And then once you have enough and you thought you can buy a house, you can pull some of the money. That's what I did. I pulled money. I did very similar thing with I created a Roth IRA. When I started working, I worked as a student at the county, and I opened that time again. It was like kind of like like in a 401k, some in the county, and then I graduated and I had to move that into a Roth IRA account, right? When I moved that into a Roth IRA account, I kept on putting some. I think it was $25 that I used to put a month. Between our 20 something years, and I pulled money from my Roth IRA account, and I was able to buy to give a deposit, use some of the money to deposit for a house because it was from a Roth IRA. You can I think after 5 years you can pull whatever you put in that has the gains, and there's no I had no penalties on using that for a house.
Okay, great. We do have a question. We have a question from the chat, Lázaro Saldívar. For homeowners that have equity on their home, are there ways that they can keep the ownership of their home and also be able to tap into that equity? Or in general, what are the options on how home equity can be used? Maria?
Okay. Yeah. So yes. So there's that. So if you have equity, yes, you can use. There's a home equity line of credit, or people depending on where it is. But some people what they also have done is they do like a cash or they refinance and they cash out some of the money, right? Again, this is part of getting together with our lender and figured out what works better. They work out the numbers and see the situations because some of them have a higher interest and some of them have a lower. You have to find out what you want, right? One is you have to kind of refinance the whole thing. If you have a really good interest, you probably don't want to do that, right? So instead, you might want to look at maybe there's also the home equity like a HELOC. So you probably want to look into that maybe instead. Again, but yes, so if you have equity and you can do that, it's just a matter of running the numbers and seeing what scenario looks better for you and where you're able to do or what do you want to do, right? But yes, definitely that's a great thing. So if you have a house and you want to keep it, and that's kind of what I did too, right? Once you have a house, at least my perspective, I didn't want to sell the property. My thing is I wanted to build equity, build more. So I took money from there and gave it a down payment for another property, right? And so then you do that, and that's how you kind of build it. But definitely use that.
Yeah.
Because right now they have a lot. Property value is really high.
So you can definitely, I'm assuming I'm going to throw this out there, Maria.
Give me a call and
yeah, exactly.
we can
You can
get
do
together.
a free
We can even do
consultation.
a Zoom meeting. If you're not close by, then we can do a Zoom meeting with my lender and we can do that as well.
Awesome. We also have another comment. Okay, no, thank you. Okay, no comment. So with that, we're at time. I'm going to go around the room. Any additional comments, Mr. Mike Cruz?
No, thank you, Maria. I think we need this once a year, especially for our students, because they just, they're in a quandary. And so the more information they got about buying houses and finances is a good thing. And I've always recommended it for the past 10 or 20 years. We need to hear these stories from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, I can help. I mean, I do real estate investing, but at the same time, I can help in other ways, right? How to financially, free and things you can do about 529s if you have kids or Roth IRAs or regular IRA or high yield accounts. I've done a little bit of trading as well. How do you open your trading accounts? It's just different things. I mean, I just like doing that. So I like it. So
Mina Martinez, any last comments, Mina?
I do. As a comment, actually, and a question as well, Maria. Do you have to be in the city to do all your transactions, or like you're in San Diego? Yes. Okay.
No, yeah, I'm in San Diego, but I don't have to be. I don't have to be close by. We also do. I mean, I also done
You
negotiations
could be within different cities. You could be in a different state too, or you're just in the state of California.
Different states as well. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So basically, also like so basically, what I have done, we also have referrals. We have either my lender can do loans in different states, they can do that. And at the same time, we also have different, what do you call it, coworkers that we always refer that they can also do the work. And I have properties, San Diego and Texas.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So, I mean,
Well, that's really
like,
great to know.
don't,
Yeah,
don't,
Yep.
yeah. So the other thing for students, if San Diego is like, okay, I can't afford in San Diego for the reason, but I do have good money and I want to be able to own and I want to start, investing and be an owner, then look at a state. Texas is good, way cheaper, and it's going to benefit you with the taxes. Someone else is going to pay you rent, and eventually you're like building wealth.
Yep.
And then eventually you're going to have rent,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And be able to retire early.
So let me
there
go
you
over
go.
to
Don't,
Paul Montoya.
just,
Any comments?
yeah, just don't think I can't afford it. Think outside. That's my recommendation.
Great.
exactly. Thank you very much. Yes.
You're welcome.
Let me see. Paul Montoya, any comments from you, sir?
No, homeownership's, one of the American dreams. So, appreciate all the insight. Yeah, like Michael mentioned, I don't know if it's the focus of the students when they come out of graduation, but it sounds like there's definitely some programs that can help them get home ownership and get some roommates. I was one of my properties I listed on, I had on Airbnb and VRBO and had really good luck on Furnished Finder, which is kind of like what a lot of nurses and stuff use. And so there's a lot of innovative ways these days you can keep your property rented if you don't have the traditional leasee, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely fun to be in the game, and yeah, appreciate you putting this together with Maria.
Of course.
Yeah, and if you could do out of state too, my son's up to, he's only been working 6 months, but he's already saved about 20 or 30 grand. He has it all in crypto, so it sounded like you said one of the programs you could actually get him in somewhere. So I'll connect you with him.
Yeah, connect with her.
Yeah,
she'll do a
that's
free
what
consultation.
Thank you. Yeah, I do recommend going out of state if you can afford it here. And, it's one way, They're cheaper. It's nice. You never know. Buy somewhere where maybe, buy over there.
Yeah, and if you connect and mention Cafecito Chats, you'll definitely get a better treatment and better support. And that'd be awesome.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me see. Michelle Jasso, you just moved over to Florida. Any thoughts or questions from you?
I actually put in 2 offers.
Okay.
But they were low offers, trying to buy some investment property near the college here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really good college area.
Okay.
I just put in the chat, like my sister-in-law, she's 8 years older than me.
Yep.
So I bought my first house right when I graduated because I had my husband with me, and he had just gotten his offer letter. We live up near Sorrento Valley. He's still there working.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the homes here are a lot less. Yeah. They're like about 50% less than San Diego. Yeah. And, you're talking about like putting an offer in a condo. Oh, it's like maybe 150,000. Wow. Okay. But it was really old though, I would say. Okay. It's built in the 70s. So, but between the two, you kind of have to look at your, your, I guess, audience, that you're renting to. Correct. So, and then I own some other rentals too in Sorrento Valley area. So, that's in the tech industry. Yeah. So.
Great insight.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
I'm enjoying myself in Florida.
Awesome.
We had some snow.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Great insight, great perspective. So definitely, we're at time. Definitely thank you for joining. And if you feel that you want to reach out to Maria for a free consultation, she does Zoom, or she can meet you in person. She can do home showing. She does open houses as well in local San Diego area, all over the San Diego County. If you're interested in pursuing and looking at what she has to offer, reach out to her. If you're remote, you can definitely reach out to her and ask her for a consultation, and she can definitely guide you through the process of purchasing a home, right? As mentioned earlier by several people, this workshop is intended to bring awareness, to go ahead and empower you and to keep you motivated, because rents are going high and we want to keep supporting you to own your own property and navigate your own destiny and future. So with that, you can definitely reach out once again to Mina Martinez, myself, Maria Rios, Mr. Mike Cruz, and ask us any questions from our perspective. And obviously, Maria Rios is here to help as our expert, realtor. So reach out to her and let her know that you learned about this Cafecito Chat effort and a free consultation. There's no harm in reaching out to her and at least bouncing it off of her. With that, muchas gracias, Maria. Any closing comments from you, Maria?
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate it, Lázaro. Like I said, I'll be joining here as well. And, they can call me. I mean, I'm not charging you for any of this advice. I like to help in any ways. And if you, just want to chat, or if you're not interested now, maybe in the years, but have a plan. My thing is plan.
Yes.
Okay, plan and live below your means. Okay, you're going to do so well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. With that, thank you. Have a wonderful day. See you next week.
Thank you.
Hasta luego.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Gracias, Lázaro.
Gracias.
Gracias.